Well, hello everybody, welcome. It's a little bit windy, isn't it? A bit windy outside, but it's nice to see you've all been blown inside here into the Hex Suite for the Abu Dhabi HSBC Championship. Well, New Year, Happy New Year to you all. We've got a new course to celebrate that New Year here at Yas Links, but the same old familiar faces, don't we? We've got two, just a bit older than me, HSBC ambassadors here, of course, Tim Henman, former British #1, and of course Brian O'Driscoll as well. Rugby superstar and former British and Irish Lions captain too. Welcome, guys. Nice to see you again. A little bit windy. I know you both played in the Pro-Am, didn't you, 2 days ago? How would you fancy your chances playing in this weather?
Brutal. It was tough enough when we played on Wednesday. The course was perfect, the conditions were perfect, and you know, even from where we were playing, which was a lot further forward than the pros, it was difficult. The greens were so quick, so undulating, so I'm having to really battle through the challenges out there. It's still, you know, impressive to see the scores. Poulter just in, having shot level par today. I mean, it's a hell of a performance.
Poulter hitting off the deck with a driver. Would you fancy doing that, or? It's all right. Amateur. We got an amateur.
Turn it on. I don't really have anything to lose when I hit my driver off the deck. You know, I'm not expecting a whole lot.
It's your chipping. It's your chipping.
So the driver is actually one club that I sort of can rely on. So off the deck or off the tee, it actually usually goes airborne, but never really sure what direction. But it does. If you just shot on me without knowing where the ball went, I tend to make good contact with it, which is the important thing.
You're from Ireland. You must cope well under this weather, surely.
I grew up with links golf, so I've seen like very, very windy conditions. And you know, we were out in the driving range early on watching Rory and watching his manipulation of the golf ball. He obviously, played a lot of links golf. It has the record up in Portrush. And just being able to keep it low and controlled is what today is about. And so no great shot. Larry, another one that finished level par, links experience. So it'll be, men from the boys today. It'll be really interesting to see whether many of the Americans that are over here are able to deal with these conditions, because it feels very much UK and Ireland players are the ones that are going to come to the fore, having dealt with it all their lives growing up.
And you played with Shane Lowry, didn't you, in the Pro-Am? How was that experience?
Yeah, it was brilliant. I know Shane reasonably well. Our kids are in the same school, so I see him on the drop-off or the collect sometimes. But he's a pleasure to play with. A lot of the pros are very generous with their time, but some of them go the extra yard where, we weren't in the reckoning for any prizes from very early on. But at no point did his interest levels deteriorate over the course of the 18 holes. He was still reading putts, he was still interested, he was still giving lessons to the three of us on 16, 17, 18. We obviously weren't listening to him early on where he needed to reinforce his point, but I think that level, sometimes you take for granted, pros that do that stuff, but it's not an easy thing when you're doing it week in, week out. So yeah, it kind of takes a unique individual to kind of give it their all when sometimes they just want to concentrate on their own game.
Okay, well, you two are actually a little bit competitive, aren't you? You've been having fun outside. How did you get on in the Pro-Am between you two? Did you do a little competition, or?
No, I'm not quite sure. I played with Colin Montgomery, who was brilliant. Safe to say, I did quite a lot of listening. He just talked and talked and talked. But again, as Bod was saying, so generous with his time. He's, so experienced and great to see him out here playing. So it was a lot of fun. I'm not really quite sure, what we shot, but we certainly weren't in for any prizes at the end.
Do you know what? Sorry, this really shocked me to hear, but Tim did something really magnanimous the other day, and he got the long drive. Out on, was it 16, and he decided not to pick up the prize.
No, what was the prize?
I was never so shocked to hear that level of generosity.
I think I must
from a
have
guy.
just been in the first cut or something, but
do you know what? You've literally patronised the person that did win long drive now as well. So not only did you think you thought you were doing something nice, but you actually
I just didn't want to say it. I didn't want to say that I hit 5 wood.
Someone. It was like, oh, that's above me. That's ultimately the message that you passed on to the whole field.
Did you hit it with your tennis racket or something?
Yeah, it was downwind. Good.
You were quite a master on the grass courts, weren't you, in tennis? Is that what led you to being quite a good golfer as well? Because I know, did you have a grass court in your garden growing up, did you?
No, unfortunately not. But I'd always loved golf. I had 2 older brothers, and they played a lot of sport. My dad played sport, so I grew up playing everything. And, I knew tennis was what I wanted to do from a young age. Probably from the age of 6 or 7, I wanted to sort of go in that direction. But from a similar age, I was playing some golf as well, and I always loved the game of golf, and I knew that when I stopped playing tennis, I would play a lot more golf. So I'm at the addiction stage, and it's nice to be. I played a little bit in December back home, but it was all pretty frozen, and so it's great to get out here in some warmer weather and play a beautiful course like Yas Links.
Why do a lot of athletes, say, for instance, in rugby, whether it's football or tennis, they seem to be taking up golf? It seems to be the most participated sport or second sport that they play. Why do you think that is, Brian?
I don't know. I think it's such a challenge, and it's often very different from what they've experienced previously. And there's, for anyone here that loves their golf, you only need to hit a couple of good shots in a round to get you back the next time. I played pretty poorly here in the Pro-Am, but yet I hit enough decent shots to go, I've got the bug again. I haven't played for a few months. So now I'm really interested in getting back into it. Might wait for the temperatures to pick up a little bit at home. I when I can feel my hands. So, I'll wait till kind of March, April before I go back playing again. But I think it's just, it's nice, escape away, play with your mates. It can be as rewarding winning for a fiver as it can be for some of the money that Tim bets for. But it's just it's a great sport that challenges you every day, and just as soon as you think you have it beaten, it beats you up.
Well, I say it's one of the most participated sports, but actually I found out the most participated sport in the UK. Do you know what that is? Anyone?
Is it fishing?
Fishing! I worked on the fishing, believe it or not. And it is the most participated sport. Have you given that a go, you two?
No, I don't think I've got the patience for fishing. No.
And the rotator cuff issue with shoulder with casting. No. I've gone a bit of crab fishing with my kids during the summer.
Crabbing.
I loved it. Loved it. They were disinterested after 10 minutes. I was just left there. But it was one of those. It's cheating where you have like it's like a bucket net, so like you can get like 9 crabs in one go.
You're like trawling.
It's like reliving my youth again. Nostalgia.
You're all looking for golf tips here and other tips of sports, but instead you get fishing. So from golf to fishing, and let's go to rugby. You were at the HSBC Dubai Sevens, weren't you? What did you love about that event? I was there too. It was brilliant.
It's a brilliant event, and I think the fact that it hadn't been there for a couple of years, people were ready to have a great party. I think the great reason that that's such a success as well is because it's men's, women's, but also the veterans as well. So Sevens is for everyone. It's like a party atmosphere, and if you get a bad game of sevens, you only have to wait 14 minutes for the next game, and you never get 2 bad games in a row. It's end to end. It's high octane, big impact, high scoring. So there's phenomenal athletes on show, and it's there's so much fun in the stands as much as there is watching on the pitch. So it's a real carnival atmosphere, and it's impossible not to have a good time at a Sevens event. I've been lucky to go to Dubai and Vancouver and Hong Kong and London, and Dubai is right up there with the best of them. And it's usually the first of the season, so everyone is really looking forward to getting stuck in to rugby and to whatever else you want to get stuck into.
I mean, I had a great time. It's the first time I've been to Sevens. You've been to Sevens before a few times.
No,
I
haven't. No. I think it clashes with a couple of tennis events, but I've heard from Bod, and I've seen some of the social media footage of Bod at different times of the day. So it looks entertaining both on and off the pitch.
Well, let's talk a little bit about tennis events. We've got to talk about the US Open, don't we, Tim? Emma Raducanu. I love this topic because you almost acted as her mentor, and she actually said she caught eye contact with you on court. You were there courtside for a lot for Amazon Prime. How was that experience?
It was amazing. At that time, Emma was working with Andrew Richardson, who was best man at my wedding. He was someone that I grew up playing junior tennis with from the age of 11. So, to see, what they were getting up to with the whole journey through, qualifying, 3 rounds of qualifying, and then into, her first Grand Slam outside of Wimbledon, which she had played a couple of months before, and the way that she was able to take each and every match in her stride and deliver such quality performances, but then just able to sort of move on and stay in the present each and every day. And obviously, to win those 10 matches without dropping a set and be the first qualifier in the history of our sport to win a Grand Slam, it was an incredible achievement. And she's obviously just lost in the Australian Open, but it's such a steep learning curve for her. She's played so little professional tennis. She needs to learn and continue to build and improve, and I'm sure she'll do that, and I'm sure she'll, win more majors in the future.
Well, you were basically part of her team there. How were the celebrations after that? Obviously not quite as wild as the 7, surely.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, there was only sort of 6 or 7 of us that ended up going back to celebrate back in the city of New York, and a lot, and times in all sports that when you need a little bit of fresh input, you want to hear a different. Some people like to change that up more regularly, and I think again Emma, because she's so young, she hasn't really positive start, and not only does Emma need time to learn her trade, they obviously need time to develop that relationship. So fingers crossed that will continue to move in the right direction.
Okay. When I played in a Prem, it was actually my first one a couple of months ago. I got incredibly nervous. When you're playing in the Prem, obviously being professional or former professional athletes yourselves, do you still get nervous playing with men at the top of their game?
Yeah, of course. It's the comfort zone thing. It's when you're playing your sport, tennis or rugby, you don't think twice about it. It's second nature to you. Whereas obviously golf and pressure and those experiences, you're more concerned about maiming someone or really hurting someone that might be too close to you. So you genuinely like push back. I can be a hacker in my spare time. So
can he?
So it's the worst part is where on the first hole I want my biggest club, I want a driver, and I hate starting holes that you have to like nudge a 5-iron or a 3-iron down there. I just don't want to. I always take out my driver and it's a half shot driver, which is not the easiest thing to finesse down, but St Andrews is a really good example for it. If you hit a good driver, you can be too far down there, but I'm taking it out every time, swing it as fast as you can and be off the tee as quick as you can.
Why is there so much thought before a golf shot? Is there that much thought that goes into tennis or rugby? Because I feel like with golf, it's stationary ball, and so much goes into it before you swing.
Yeah, I think that's one of the challenges, when you're playing a reactive sport, obviously the ball in tennis or, ball moving around a rugby pitch, you're reacting, you're playing a lot more by instinct. And I think at times that makes it easier. You don't have so much time to think about, what could go wrong. And certainly when you see the stationary ball in golf and you've got the walk between shots, you've got plenty of time to think about it. And I think, going back to that nervous tension, when you're in your comfort zone and you're doing something that you're confident and comfortable with, you're able to control those nerves. Those nerves are probably a good thing because it shows that you care about, what you're going to do. And then you're able to go through that mindset of focusing on the process, not the outcome. But as Brian said, when you're standing over a golf shot and you're concerned that you could kill that person and you might hit it in the water there, you're obviously adding together some pretty negative thoughts.
Especially in this wind.
The DP World Tour actually posted something from the Pro-Am the other day on 17 where they clipped about their swing thoughts. And it was really interesting seeing the different ranges, because I think Poulter said, well, there's drink on the left, don't hit it there. So that was I think Robert Rock had like 4 or 5 different points to think about. And then it's something irrespective of your sport. You want to just trust your natural action, whatever it might be, and play with that instinct that got you to the position that you're in. So try not overthink it. If you're overthinking it, you get too mechanical.
True. Okay, I'm going to open some questions up to the floor, so please have a little think. But just before we do that, part and parcel of being a professional athlete is you've got media duties that you've got to do as well, don't you? I mean, we heard a great one yesterday, a story from you, which I'm going to ask you again via the tomato. The tomato. Tim loved this one. Okay, post-match interview, you had a bet on. Tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, so I every week when you're playing international rugby for Ireland, you get your itinerary every day, and then on the bottom of the page there's a quote of the day from our bagman Paddy O'Reilly, and on this particular day the quote was, "Knowledge is knowing a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is knowing not to put it in a fruit salad." So we had the captain's run, and then we're in the dressing room before the press conference right afterwards. And one of the lads said, "I bet you can't get that into the press conference." I said, "I bet you I can." He says, "Right, well, what's the bet?" and I was like, "Right, full waxing down there." He's like, "Right, deal." Specifics of what they are, but you get the idea. Anyway, I went in and I got asked, I don't even know what the question was. I'd already decided this was my answer to this question. So I think they asked me something about Martin Johnson. Anyway, I came out with knowledge is known, tomatoes fruit, wisdom is known not to put in fruit salad. And there was silence for a second. I was like, oh my God, it's gone down so badly. And then howls of laughter. And then everyone thought that I had come up with it. So, and people send it to me the whole time on Twitter or Instagram. Go, "Oh, your quote! I saw it in a tube station in London." I was like, "That is not my quote." They think that I'm coming up with a quote like that. They really don't know me.
I love that. We associate with you as well. Right, I'm going to open up some questions to the floor now. I'm going to keep some eye contact.
We've got to speak about tennis, Australian Open.
Yeah.
Don't really want to put you on the spot, but it's something so topical. Been through a pandemic recently, and there's been so much media focus on it. Personal opinion, I know you're probably limited to what you can say.
No, he's not. He can give us the whole
shebang.
He
can give it the outline.
Ask him a punchy one. A leading question.
What goes on tour stays on tour.
So, look, the Djokovic.
It was a shambles.
Absolute shambles. Is that how,
I think so.
From inside the game, you might have a bit more insight, but from the outsiders, it seems he's travelled there with the valid visas, and it's...
There are 4 elements, and Djokovic is one of those elements. The other 3 are Tennis Australia, so the rules and the guidelines for that event. Then you have the state of Victoria, and then you have the Australian government. And quite obviously there was no communication really between those other 3. The opportunity to compete in the Australian Open if you've had COVID within the last 6 months, and therefore you don't need to be double vaxxed, was that opportunity for Djokovic to country. But to then get to Melbourne and be in detention for the 4 days, then to be let out, then to be another case, and finally be deported. There were no winners there. I think it was a bad look for the sport, bad look for the tournament. We didn't have probably the greatest male player of all time playing in the event. I don't think it reflected well on Australia. So I think for me, the big question now moving forward in the next weeks and months is, what does Djokovic do? Because really, to be a professional player playing a global sport, he needs to be double vaxxed, and if he's not going to do that, then he's obviously going to jeopardise his playing opportunities. And lastly, that's his prerogative. If he doesn't want to get vaccinated, that's absolutely something that he's entitled to do. But in terms of him pursuing his goals as a professional tennis player, then inevitably that's going to curtail them.
Do you think that if it was Nadal that had decided that he didn't want to be double vaxxed, do you think he would have had better support from players or from the powers that be to have gone in under the radar a little bit more? Is it the lack of popularity had a negative impact on Djokovic as well?
Well, I think it's fair to say that Nadal is more popular probably with the players than Djokovic. You certainly didn't hear that many people coming out in support of Djokovic, and then you reflect of the top 100 male players, I think 98 are double vaxxed. So they're probably saying, well, this is quite simple. If you want to come and play here, get double vaxxed. And if he hasn't done that, if he hasn't decided to do that, well, then that's his problem. And in that individual sport, individual environment, it's a pretty selfish environment. So I think a lot of the players were saying, well, I'm focusing on my preparation and performance, and that's his problem. He can get on with it. So it's been messy, and now I'm glad the Australian Open is underway, and there's plenty of good stories on the court rather than what's been going on off the court.
It'll be interesting to see how he responds to everything that's going on now, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's it. In the next weeks and months, to see where, if and when he plays next, because I think to a certain extent that is going to be dictated by his vaccination status.
Okay, we've got another question here from Kit Alexander. I'm going to pass the mic over.
Thank you very much, Gabs. Hi, guys. So golf is a pretty technical sport. Obviously, there are some heavy technical elements in your sports as well, but far more reactionary. So where did you draw the line in thinking about the technique of what you were doing, or then focusing more on just general performance-related stuff, because the technique was kind of down with everything that you were doing in your sports?
I think it's a repetition piece, isn't it? It's the perfect practice tagline, where the more times you do it at practice, the more instinctive it becomes. And it's, you might have an initial ability in certain areas. You obviously have to work. You have work-ons the whole time. But one thing that when I had a real slump in form in about 2007, 2008, I spoke to a sports psychologist for the first time. And he said to me, do you think you're a lesser athlete than you were, 6 months ago? And I said, no. He said, could you improve your hydration, nutrition, your rest and recovery by a few percent, by 5%? I said, I probably could. But the best piece of advice he gave me was, he said, what makes you stand apart? Do you think you're world class in any parts of your game? And I said, yeah, probably a couple of parts of my game, maybe my elusiveness, and then maybe my ability to steal the ball from the opposition in that kind of poacher jackal position. He said, okay, rather than focusing on some of your weaknesses, and of course you need to keep them ticking over, but what about flipping on its head and trying to be truly world class? You're the standout performer, the best in the world at those couple of skills that you are very good at. And I don't know, maybe it's a human nature instinct that we always need to work on the things that we're not good at, rather than really focusing on the things that we're brilliant at, that elevate us to another plane. And ultimately, they're the bits that make you stand apart. They're the bits that people might talk about. No one's ever talked about my kicking game because it was crap. But people talked about my ability to beat people one-on-one, and then my ability as a centre to be able to steal the ball. So I think sometimes it's about, it's not trying to reinvent the wheel, just enjoying what you're good at and trying to be the best you can be in that area. And then that has a positive knock-on effect to your other parts of your game anyway.
How important is it to have psychology coach, obviously, when you're playing as well? Because as an amateur, a lot of it is how good am I, the skill, but how important is it to have a good mental game too?
Well, it's probably, tennis is a more mental sport than rugby, because we've got a safety net of 14 other people to be able to carry our workload if we're a bit below par, whereas there's no place to hide.
And I think it's very much down to the individual, but accepting that responsibility and understanding your strategy, your game plan, the way you want to play, but the psychology and for me, certainly when you're talking about younger players and developing younger players, for me there's in tennis there's teaching and there's coaching, and they're two different things. Teaching is very much about the biomechanics, the technique of the way that you hit shots. Coaching is very much about why you hit to this point in the court at 15-30, or why you serve here at 30 all, and the better you can ingrain those good habits, whether it's mental, physical, technical, at a younger age, the better that's ingrained, the easier it is, to coach someone further down the line, because you're not having to focus on, different shots. You're playing much more reactively, and on that mental side, the psychology. When you talk to young players about confidence, and we all know, what an important word it is in sport. If you sort of say to a young player, what is confidence? I don't think they necessarily have an understanding. And confidence is the sum of your thoughts. It's your thoughts added together, and that can very much go in both directions. So if you're, focusing on something that's negative and you're not very happy about it, and you're adding together, those bad thoughts, you won't be particularly confident. But if you can, really focus on that positive vibe and add together a lot of positive thoughts, then you're going to be in a far better place to, perform mentally.
Just one thing to add to that. It's how do you maintain confidence? Because it's that intangible that everyone is chasing in every walk of life. It's not specific to sport. But one thing that I used to do when I had a big moment in a game, there might be a knock-on or a scrum or a penalty, and I used to replay it in my head. And sometimes one of my teammates would come up and try to have a conversation about something, and I'd be looking at them, but I wouldn't be listening to them, because I'd just be replaying the positivity that felt that I had a great feeling, there was a good reaction from the crowd, and it just fed positivity within me. Rather than letting those negative moments that we all have, knock-ons, or you make a mistake, or you miss class thing to do, next thing's got to be world class as well.
Did you ever have a situation, Tim, where you lost confidence at an area of your game, and you just kept thinking about it, and you just felt it couldn't work because of that confidence, even though you are more than capable of doing?
In golf, we would hear people talking about, putting and the yips and how you come back from that. In tennis, the area that you could suffer really is the serve, and quite often it can be the ball toss. And for me, I became very sort of analytical about and almost too critical about my ball toss. Was it in the right place, and how was it affecting my serve? And actually, I did a little bit of work with Bob Rotella, who's obviously a very prominent golf psychologist, and he just got me thinking in a different fashion. And he asked me about the way that I would hit a smash, and I felt that my smash was one of the best in the game, a shot that I always hit winners from. But you hit your smash from lots of different positions, because your opponent's trying to put the ball in difficult positions. So he very much got me thinking about serving as if I was smashing, because I was in control of the ball. And he said, throw the ball roughly up in the right place. It's going to be a much easier shot than a smash. And I had so much confidence in my smash, and suddenly it almost, relieved the pressure from my ball toss. Then I was, probably less stressed about trying to put it in the perfect spot. My ball toss got better, and then if it's in the right position, you'll serve a lot better. So it's, again, just having that experience to, think about problems in slightly different fashion.
Okay, well, we're going to wrap it up now, but I've got to say, have you got a question you'd both like to ask each other? You could either find out something about Brian that you don't know, you can find out something about Tim. We can all find out about something.
I've probably got one, and I can't remember how old Brian is on his birthday today.
It's your birthday today. Have you taken 40 minutes to tell me it's your birthday?
Are we going to sing?
Yeah, we are. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. You're going as red as your T-shirt. Happy birthday, dear Brian. Happy birthday to you. Oh, I'm so glad to the live stream.
Thank you very much. My question is, what did you get me, Tim?
3 tennis balls.
Handshake.
Well, happy birthday.
Thank you.
How are you
Thank
going to
you.
celebrate?
Cheers.
Being here.
Lunch.
Yeah.
Lunch with me.
There we go.
Celebrate.
We'll treat you to a nice lunch. Here we are.
Some sushi.
In the Hex
Lovely.
Suite.
Get the lunch.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you to Tim and Brian as well.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us. Enjoy the rest of the golf for today. And if you're interested in walking around the course at all this afternoon with corporate commentary, that's just outside. You can sign up with the guys out there. Thank you so much.